Hey everyone, it's your friend and colleague Jesse Green, and you're listening to another episode of the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's wonderful to have your company, as it always is. Last week, we spoke about financial systems, and we spoke about putting your financial goals on autopilot. But at the end of the episode, I asked you a question, and the question was, do you actually trust your team enough to hand those systems over to them and let them run those systems without you being there? Or do you feel inclined to look over their shoulder, to micromanage, and just to make sure that everything is going to be okay, right? So in this episode, I want to show you how to step back. I want to be able to put you one layer back from the coalface to give you a little bit of breathing space so you can focus on the things that only you as the business owner can focus on. And I wanted to start today's conversation by recounting a story. And for those of us old enough to remember the Cold War, you might remember Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan negotiating nuclear disarmament. And during those negotiations, Ronald Reagan uttered what became a very, very famous phrase, and that was trust but verify. Now, importantly, Ronald Reagan wasn't saying don't trust, but he was saying that trust is built through transparency and accountability. And this is really important because if we apply that to your team, we've got to trust them to do their job, but we need to have clear ways of knowing whether they are in fact doing their job, right? So this is not micromanaging. This is not watching them do their job. Micromanaging is hovering, and verifying is allowing a system to be in place that shows the results. The system that we're talking about is scorecards or dashboards, weekly check-ins, clear documented expectations. And so when you verify through systems, your trust grows. When you hover and you oversee and you micromanage and you're correcting as they go, trust is actually killed. And so it's really important to trust your team, but to build a system that proves you right. And this is the key thing, is you want to be right, but you want to make sure that you have a system that gives you that verification. So here's the problem that I see. Practice owners will often have expectations in their head, but it's not documented on paper. So when things go wrong, the practice owner is thinking, oh, come on, you should know that. But how should someone know that if it's not documented? So the process of documentation involves creating scorecards for every single role. Now, a scorecard has three key parts to it, and I'll just list those quickly for you. The first part is some broad objectives of the role. What are the big picture things you want that role to achieve in your practice? And sitting underneath those objectives are KPIs or metrics that would need to be achieved for those objectives to be met. And then sitting underneath the KPIs are specific activities you need the person fulfilling that role to execute on a daily basis to a particular standard. So let me just give you a very quick example, and this is just one off the cuff. It doesn't have to be exactly right for your practice. Let's say we're building a scorecard for your front desk or your reception. One of the objectives of the front desk is to make sure the practice is financially productive, financially successful. And so one of the KPIs or metrics that would support that would be to have chair utilization at roughly 90%. So therefore, one of the activities that someone needs to follow up on a day-to-day basis would be following up incomplete treatment or cancellations and no-shows to make sure the chair is fully utilized. And when the chair is fully utilized, or at least 90% utilized, we're going to end up with a productive practice. So you build your scorecard from the top down, but you execute it from the bottom up. And that's a really, really key thing. Now, of course, when you have scorecards, it's not just a one and done, set and forget kind of thing. You want to review these on a regular basis in a coaching or one-to-one environment. And of course, what we want to be able to do is if people are hitting their numbers and doing well, great, we want to give them a high five and celebrate. But if there's gaps that are occurring, we need to provide training and resourcing around that to make sure that we can help those people level up. So again, one of the things I really love about scorecards is it allows us to monitor changes over time because we know that those changes or improvements over time can produce big results because they compound on one another. And as the saying goes, small hinges swing big doors. So even improving your rebooking rate by 10% or 5% even will produce dozens more patients through the door every single month. Maybe just changing a sentence in your treatment presentations will improve case acceptance, which produces greater production. Or maybe just having a small 5-minute daily huddle improves team communication, it reduces gaps in the appointment schedule, and so on and so forth. So scorecards allow your team to guide you their way through improvement. And it's these small hinges that will come up through your scorecards, those small insights, which when compounded over time, produce the big results. So here's the big idea. You don't actually need a revolution. You need a small hinge that you can swing a big door from. So you got to find that hinge. You got to push it and watch the door swing open. Scorecards are going to give you the tools to identify those hinges that are going to make the biggest difference for you. All right, gang, so I'm going to switch to some Q&A because as I've mentioned in a few episodes now, we're getting quite a lot of questions coming through. So if you want to send a question in, please do so. Now, this question comes from Mark, who's a practice owner. He's asking, should I hire a hygienist or an OHT, or should I hire a dentist? Now, again, there's no really clear answer here. It's going to depend on your personal preference. It's going to depend on where the constraints in your business are. It's going to depend on patient flow. It's going to depend on a lot of things, okay? So let me give you a couple of considerations as you make your decision. It really depends on what you're optimizing for. If you're really trying to improve your own personal productivity, then getting unproductive things out of your appointment book is a smart strategy. A hygienist or therapist that can do your checkups and cleans for you and all that sort of stuff, leaving your day free to do higher end production is a sensible thing to do if you're looking to optimize your own productivity. If you're looking to scale up, typically you'd want to put in another dentist because a dentist has a greater scope of practice and they can replace you more readily. Now, there's a couple of things in there. Sometimes you might not have the patient flow to justify hiring another dentist. You might not need a full-time dentist yet. So the rule of thumb is roughly 1,200 to 1,500 active patients per full-time dentist. And you need to then look at your rate of new patient acquisition as well. So you need to look at capacity planning. When will I have enough work to bring on a part-time dentist? When is it likely they could go full-time based on my current new patient flow and so on? So again, there's no one right answer, but there's a couple of considerations there. Certainly, if your books are full and you're turning treatment away, you want to get an extra set of hands in there and make sure you're building capacity into the practice, because here's another consideration. Your patient base will only grow to what you can effectively manage. If you grow beyond that, you will churn patients and settle back down to that number of patients that you can properly service. So if you're looking to grow your practice, you need to think about capacity as well. The question is, therapist/hygienist or dentist is going to come back to what you're optimizing for. So remember, don't hire for a feeling, hire for numbers, hire for what you're trying to achieve in the goals of your practice. Really, really important. All right, gang, so over the last few weeks, I've shared with you some strategies and some tactics that will help you grow and scale your business. All of these strategies and tactics I learned through implementing them into my own practice. I didn't read about them in the textbook, but they're also the strategies I teach our coaching clients, and I know that they work because they've worked for me, they work for our clients, and I know they'll work for you too. So make sure you apply them. Now, next week, I'm going to talk about a few different things. I'm going to be talking to you, or telling you some stories at least, about how I was driving 50 Ks down the road in an 80 K zone with my newborn baby in the backseat with everyone honking their horns madly at me. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the perils of rowing in a river that has a weir and what that means and how dangerous that can be. I'm also going to talk to you about the day the roof literally flew off my house, because every one of those stories led to a very valuable lesson that has changed the way I run my business. So until next week, take good care. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye now. Hey everyone, it's Jesse here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you're looking for some more tools, some more insights, some more inspiration to help you create a practice that you love, as well as a life that you love, well, head across to savvydentist.com and check out all the goodies that we have there waiting for you right now.